The GOG summer sale is live with big discounts on DRM free titles, where you can download and save copies of these games on your hard disk, which is the main appeal, where my recommendations begin with Death's Gambit Afterlife, a 2D pixel art Souls-like title that is quite the curiosity, especially after it got its Afterlife update, which tweaked and fixed many of the issues that people had with the game at launch. The stamina-based combat system in 2D will remind you of games like Dark Souls, only where the removal of one dimension means that dodging and rolling becomes much more difficult, where it has an intriguing premise, awesome boss designs, and some of the best pixel art that I have ever seen. One of the secret best tactics titles is Wildermyth, a turn-based, grid-based tactical RPG where you lead a party of heroes on various adventures. So far so standard, but the twist is that your heroes will age, grow old, get married, have kids, and eventually pass on, although you will be able to call upon the pantheon of legends under certain conditions. The campaigns are generally in the same neighborhood as a D&D story, but where the myth-making aspect of following along the lives of your own legendary heroes is the main draw. Sable is one of the best examples of a game that uses an art style inspired by French artist Mobius, and my god, they absolutely nailed it and hit it out of the park, where this game is a work of art in every sense of the word. You play as Sable, who is currently on her gliding, a rite of passage for her that sees her venturing across the world, where the curiosities in the environments from vast deserts to spaceships certainly contributes to the world building and is a wonderful experience. An excellent old school CRPG that you might not know about is Atom RPG, one that is inspired by games like Fallout 1 and 2 as well as Wasteland, set in a world after nuclear mutually assured destruction, where both the Soviet Union and Western Bloc have been destroyed. As a survivor in this new world, you're exploring the Soviet wasteland and finding your own path, coming across a major conspiracy that is attempting to eliminate whatever life is left on Earth, where it's an excellent classically designed game that will be for fans of the genre. An oldie but a goodie is Valhalla, a narrative adventure game filled with waifus where you play as a bartender and have to mix drinks for your customers. You will get to know them in the process and eventually uncover the story and learn more about the world through them, where even if you're not usually a visual novel or adventure game person, I think that this is worth checking out. On to something with more action in the 2D Souls-like title GRIME, one where you play as a living black hole and have the ability to absorb enemies, where mastering the parry is essential in this game. It has been getting plenty of post-launch support with updates and fixes as well as new free content, the most recent of which was just a couple of days ago, where the unique thing about this is that while still being grimdark, the enemies are not your typical eldritch monsters or gothic horror vampires, but rather are made of rock and wood, having very unnerving designs as well. One of the best games of 2022 is Nobody Saves the World, an action-adventure title where you play as a character named Nobody, who of course has to save the world. You do so by transforming into a variety of different forms, such as a magician or horse or even a dragon, mixing and matching their various abilities. This is from the developer of Guacamelee and matches the quality of their previous game while moving in a new direction, where the gameplay loops that this game creates are very compelling. You can think of Breathedge as Subnautica but in space, being a single-player survival crafting title but being a little bit more limited in scope and adding in a dose of humor. You play as a man who just wanted to carry his grandfather's ashes to a galactic funeral, but then finds himself in the middle of a huge conspiracy where you're scavenging resources and crafting stuff from the garbage and scrap that you collected, and it's a pretty underrated one, all things considered. Stoneshard is already tremendously successful despite still being in early access, being a beautiful pixel art open world RPG in a medieval fantasy world. It is very D&D in nature with enemies like skeletons, but as a mercenary, you can take on various contracts in your quest for fame and riches. It is surprisingly deep tactically and has plenty of RPG elements, making it one of the best. Another great, if smaller, grimdark Metroidvania from last year is Moonscars, one with an intentionally limited colour palette, which perhaps makes it visually unappealing, but the pixel art is well done and has good combat. You play as a warrior known as Grey Irma, seeking out someone known as the Sculptor in order to uncover the mystery of her existence. The combat is the highlight, with awesome animations and fun weapons, but the narrative and story is a little convoluted and is not a strong suit. People love their mercenary company games, where another such title is Battle Brothers, one where you can have a whole army at your disposal, where you need to equip every soldier and to use them tactically to defeat your enemies. Keeping the company profitable is one of the main goals, done so by taking on contracts and defeating monsters, being another must-play title. A more recent tactical title is Inculinati, one where you control an army of anthropomorphic animals and use this to attack your enemies. The medieval manuscript-inspired art is excellently done, with great tactical choices to make as well, which, combined with special powers from your Inculinati master of choice, as well as a single-player campaign and random events, makes this one for strategy game fans. An all-action first-person shooter is Severed Steel, one where there's a focus on speed as you make your way through the levels, blasting away at enemies. The speed and mobility are the highlights, where you can even do things like rotate 360 degrees in mid-air while shooting at enemies, being sleek and stylish and pretty fun. I'm not usually a racing game person, but developer Fun Selector makes excellent ones, such as Absolute Drift, where also of interest is Art of Rally, a rally car racing title that is just set in the most beautiful of locations. It is rally racing, so the physics and handling are more realistic, but this is truly one of the best looking racing games in my opinion and is definitely worth a play. Another standout from 2022 is Card Shark, a gorgeous title from the developer of Reigns, being an adventure game about cheating at cards in order to con your way into high society. The variety of tricks that this game shows you with regards to cards is fascinating and innovative, where there are consequences for getting caught, where there isn't anything else like this on the market, which makes it of interest. An all-action first-person shooter is Bright Memory Infinite, one where you're battling both soldiers and mythical monsters, where you have both guns and a sword at your disposal. The action in this is super flashy and great, where the addition of a grappling hook makes movement and traversal fluid as well, where this is an excellent game that more people should play. One of my favourite games from 2022 is Chain Echoes, a classic turn-based JRPG, but with modern high-bit pixel art, where the developer has done a masterful job in increasing the speed of the game, so much so that the turn-based combat actually feels snappy and does not drag. There are wonderful characters to meet, plenty of upgrades and progression, as well as the ability to hop into a mech suit, all set against the classic political intrigue backdrop of warring nations and mercenary companies, so if you're bummed that Final Fantasy XVI is an action game, do give this a go. One of the best games of 2021 is Inscription, a roguelike deck builder card game that is, refreshingly, not like Slay the Spire. It is from developer Daniel Mullins, so you know there is a more meta element to this game, where despite the roguelite structure, it is not meant to be replayed indefinitely and does have an end, and while it's a little creepy, I wouldn't call this a horror game, so there's no need to be afraid of that. This next title is excellent and relatively underrated as well, since Amazing Cultivation Simulator is a colony sim with an ancient Chinese setting with mythological monsters, wuxia and more, where you're attempting to rebuild your sect from the ground up after a disaster. I only recently came to know that cultivation games are a thing, with reference to the setting, where think of this as RimWorld but with a different theme and mechanics and you get some idea. This next title was vaporware for quite a number of years, and despite the odds, did actually turn out pretty good, where Ghost Song is a sci-fi Metroidvania with a focus on combat and weapon variety, so check it out if you have not, with more GOG sales picks in this video.